Good morning, Lieutenant Joe Kenda. How are you?
I'm very well, Brooke, and how are you?
I don't get starstruck often, but I'm a little starstruck right now.
To the extreme.
Well, I'm just on the phone. I'm harmless. I'm only on the phone.
Brooke is a huge true crime fanatic, and she's been looking forward to this for a while.
Well, good. That's good.
So, if you are not aware, how can you not be aware? But Lieutenant Joe Kenda, Homicide Hunters, you are doing a special, bringing it back. It's a limited edition, 3 episodes, correct?
Correct.
So, if someone...
And each are 2 hours long.
Good. You're giving us all the goodness. If you are not familiar with Lieutenant Joe Kenda, you have quite the history of solving homicides, hence Homicide Hunter. Tell us a little bit about your career.
I came on the police department in March of 1973 with the intention of getting into homicide. I was successful in that. And I spent 21 years of my career in homicide as a detective, a sergeant, lieutenant, and eventually commander of major crimes unit before I retired. I retired on September 1st, 1996, which was 23 years and 6 months to the day after I started. I retired because I had reached my emotional limit. I couldn't tell another mother who wasn't coming home anymore. And during that time, I investigated 387 homicides. And of those, I resolved 356 by arrest. That is a clearance rate of 92%. And I had 31 cases that were unsolved, 8% of the total. So you look at it, depends. You can make numbers anything you wish. If you could say that I was a really smart guy who knew who killed 92% of the people, or I was an idiot who never figured out who killed 8% of the people. It all depends on how you look at it. The case that's in the first special is a case from St. Patrick's Day, 1987. A 20-year-old girl named Darlene Krayshak, who was in the United States Army, was found naked, raped, and murdered in an alley in the snow at 5 o'clock in the morning on St. Patrick's Day by patrol officers. And despite our effort, which was nonstop for years, we never resolved it, and the case report was over 2,000 pages long.
Wow.
But at the same token, DNA had been invented in England in 1986. It wasn't for sure, but it showed promise. And we thought that maybe someday DNA is a technology that could be used to uniquely identify a perpetrator in a crime. So we encountered and asked laboratories, how can we preserve physical evidence in such a manner that we can examine it decades from now by some method or means that may come into being that will result in identifying the person responsible? They said, well, there are ways to do that. You have to liquid samples. You have to freeze them in liquid nitrogen, somewhat involved and somewhat expensive. But I argued we should do it anyway. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll come to nothing, and maybe it'll come to everything. And all those years later, I testified against this individual in court in June of last year in Colorado Springs, Colorado. When he killed that girl, he was 24. When I walked by the table, the defendant's table, he is 58 years old.
Wow.
And he was looking rather bewildered. Well, hello, Michael. I've been looking for you for a very long time. And here you are.
Oh, my
That is so chilling. That is so chilling.
I want to do your phrase, my, but of course I don't do it justice because that's what you're thinking, right? When you walk past him, my, I got you.
Of course. Well, I used to use that in interrogations to change the mood. When I would initially begin talking to someone, I would be very, very nice and very condescending and even act a little bit confused. Like, I don't know why we're having this conversation. I don't know how you could even be involved in this. It encourages them to believe that if they talk their way past you, they get to the door on the other side of you, which is the way out. And I wanted them to believe that. So I would go through that for a couple hours. Why don't you tell me what happened? And they do. And there's no recording at that time. There was no notes taken. But I remember every word. I have a photographic memory, which is both a blessing and a curse. At any rate, they would say their story, which was usually pathetic. And then I'd wait a little while. And I said, well, you told me what happened, but I forgot what you said. Can you tell me again? Well, of course they can't, because they lied to you the first time. And what you're looking for is a change, something that might be very subtle, but it's different. Then I'd slam my notebook on the table and I'd say, well, my. Now, 2 hours ago you said this, and now you say this. Were you lying then? Are you lying now? Or maybe you're just a liar. What do you think? Now you put him completely off balance.
And that brings up another one of your famous quotes. If you're going to be a liar, you should at least have the decency to be good at it.
Of course. I would tell people this in interrogation. I'd say, you've had days to think about what you're going to say to me. And I got to tell you, I feel badly for you. If this isn't the worst story I've ever heard, it's in the top 5. You think you could do better than this, but you haven't. And then it's about off balance. They think their story works. They realize all of a sudden it doesn't.
Now, Lieutenant Kenda, have you found that with your show, this has been a topic of conversation between my co-host Bick and I, that you have more female viewers as opposed to male viewers? Because that seems to be the case with true crime in itself.
Well, it is the case. If you think back, who bought the Police Gazette 50 years ago? Women did. Mm-hmm. Who read mystery novels? Women do. Mm-hmm. The network, of course, has got a scientific method of analyzing their audiences, and it is predominantly female, by a wide margin, female. Women have an interest in criminal activity. Why? I have no idea. But
Me neither.
If I did know, I'd write yet another book and retire to the south of France, because you'd have to buy my book, because I was the only one who knew. So. But, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, it's certainly true.
So when people say to you, did you really solve that many cases? Or it's not possible because your series was on for a while, and it's like case after case after case. Mm-hmm. What do you tell people? You're like, I'm just good at my job?
Well, they can certainly look it up as public record. You can look it up if you wish. People can say whatever they like. Everyone has an opinion, of course. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter to me what people think. It matters to me what I think of me. Mm-hmm. When I look in the mirror in the morning, the question is, do I still like the guy I see there? And as long as the answer to that is yes, I could care less what anybody else thinks about anything.
Of all your 9 seasons and all of the episodes of Homicide Hunter, is there one that just particularly sticks out to you?
No, they're all the same. They're all the same. They are unique in their content. That's what's different about Homicide. It's never the same. Mm-hmm. It's always different. It's always horrific. It's always all the things you can imagine it is. No TV show, no movie, no Hollywood production of any kind can duplicate what someone looks like when they've been violently killed. There's an expression, New Scotland Yard, when they moved a stone from the building, the original Scotland Yard, to the New Scotland Yard in downtown London. They moved this stone in the archway because it had their saying. It was put there in 1856, and they moved it to the new building over the front door, as it had been since 1856.